All right, so today we're diving into the world of organic alfalfa and the challenges that farmers face.
Absolutely. And some of the solutions too.
Yeah. Imagine like you're an organic farmer, you're super passionate about healthy food, sustainable practices. But then you've got these tiny little aphids and this thing called AMV. It's a alfalfa mosaic virus.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, isn't it? AMV.
AMV. They're like these little threats to your beautiful alfalfa crop.
Ah.
And I know a lot of our listeners might be thinking, aphids, how much damage can they really do?
Mm.
But they can actually wreak havoc, right?
They can. They really can.
Yeah.
Those aphids, they're not just munching on the leaves, they're also spreading this AMV, and that can really damage the alfalfa, like stunted growth.
It's a double whammy. And for organic farmers, it's even trickier, right? Because they can't just use any old pesticide.
Exactly. They can't just reach for a chemical spray, so they have to get a little bit more creative.
Right. They have to work with nature.
Yeah. It's called integrated pest management, or IPM.
Right.
It's all about using a combination of different techniques to control these pests.
So it's like a multi-pronged attack.
Exactly. And it's about prevention, too, not just reacting when there's already a huge problem.
Okay, so give us some examples. What are some of these techniques that organic farmers are using?
Well, there's neem oil, for example. It's a natural insecticide.
Neem oil, I've heard of that. Is that like a spray?
Yeah, it's derived from the neem tree, and it can disrupt the aphid's life cycle without harming the beneficial
Oh,
insects.
that's good. So it's not like wiping out everything.
Exactly. And then there are these fascinating little creatures called parasitic wasps.
Parasitic wasps.
Yeah, they lay their eggs inside the aphids. It's nature's pest control.
Whoa, that's pretty intense.
It is, but it's very effective.
Okay, so you've got your neem oil, you've got your parasitic wasps. What else is in the organic farmer's toolkit?
Well, there's also the timing of planting, trying to avoid peak pest activity
Oh, that's smart.
and attracting beneficial insects like ladybugs.
Ladybugs. Everyone loves ladybugs.
They're aphid-eating machines.
So it's all about creating this like balance in the ecosystem.
Exactly.
So you mentioned earlier that organic farmers can't just reach for a chemical spray when they have a pest problem. What are some of the challenges they face when trying to control those pesky aphids and AMV?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is that organic approaches often require more time and effort. You can't just spray something and expect the problem to disappear overnight.
Right, it's a more hands-on approach.
It is, and it often involves a lot of observation and monitoring. You need to really understand the life cycles of the pests and the beneficial insects and know when to intervene.
So it's almost like becoming a detective.
In a way, yes. You're constantly looking for clues, trying to figure out what's going on in your fields and how to keep things in balance.
And I imagine that can be pretty challenging, especially when you're dealing with something like AMV, which is a virus.
Absolutely. Viruses are tricky because there's no cure for them once a plant is infected. So prevention is key.
So how do organic farmers prevent the spread of AMV?
Well, one important strategy is to choose alfalfa varieties that are known to be resistant to the virus. It's like giving your plants a head start in the fight against the disease.
So it's like choosing the right seeds from the beginning.
Exactly. And another important factor is sanitation. Making sure to remove any infected plants you spot and cleaning your equipment thoroughly before moving between fields can help to prevent the virus from spreading.
It's like good hygiene practices, but for your farm.
Exactly. And just like you wouldn't want to start a garden with diseased seeds, it's crucial to use certified virus-free seed when planting your alfalfa.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about the importance of prevention, but what happens when those aphids do show up? What are some of the organic methods that farmers can use to control them?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, neem oil is a popular choice. It's effective at disrupting the aphid's life cycle, and it's generally safe for beneficial insects.
Right. And I remember you mentioned those parasitic wasps, too. They sound pretty effective.
They are. They can be a great natural way to control aphid populations. And then there are other beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings that can also help to keep those aphids in check.
So it's almost like building a little army of beneficial insects to fight off the bad guys.
That's a great way to put it. And there are things that farmers can do to attract these beneficial insects to their fields.
Like what?
Well, planting a variety of flowering plants can provide food and shelter for these insects. You're essentially creating a welcoming habitat for them.
So it's all about creating a diverse and thriving ecosystem on your farm.
Exactly. The more biodiversity you have, the more resilient your farm will be to pests and diseases.
That makes sense. But I imagine that even with the best preventative measures, sometimes those aphids can get out of control. What happens then?
Well, in those cases, organic farmers might need to turn to other methods like organic sprays.
Organic spray?
Yeah. There are a number of organic sprays available that can be effective against aphids. One option is insecticidal soap, which works by disrupting the cell membranes of soft-bodied insects like aphids.
So it's not a chemical pesticide.
Right. It's made from natural ingredients, and it's generally safe for beneficial insects. And then there are also pyrethrin-based insecticides, which are derived from chrysanthemum flowers.
Chrysanthemums. I never would have guessed.
I know, right? Nature's full of surprises. But it's important to remember that even organic sprays should be used judiciously. They can still have an impact on the environment, so it's important to use them only when necessary.
So it's all about finding that balance, right?
Exactly.
So we've talked a lot about the challenges of controlling aphids and AMV, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the solutions that are out there. Specifically, I want to talk about this company called Farmonaut. They're using some pretty amazing technology to help farmers protect their crops. Can you tell us a little bit more about them?
Oh, absolutely. Farmonaut is doing some really innovative work. They're using satellite imagery and artificial intelligence to help farmers detect problems in their fields before they become visible to the naked eye.
Wait, so they can see things from space that we can't see standing right here on Earth?
That's right. It's pretty incredible. They're basically giving farmers a superpower.
Wow, that sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. How does it work?
Well, they have these satellites orbiting Earth that are equipped with special sensors. These sensors can capture different wavelengths of light that are reflected by the crops below.
So it's not just like taking a picture from space.
No, it's much more sophisticated than that. These different wavelengths of light can reveal a lot about the health of the plants. For example, a healthy plant will reflect light differently than a plant that's stressed or diseased.
Oh, I see. So they're using light to diagnose the plants.
Exactly. And then they use artificial intelligence to analyze all of this data and identify patterns that might indicate a problem.
So it's like having a supercomputer looking out for your crops.
That's a great way to put it. And the best part is that this technology can detect problems very early on before they become visible to the human eye.
So it's like an early warning system.
Precisely. And that early warning can make all the difference for a farmer. If they know that there's a problem brewing, they can take steps to address it before it gets out of hand.
That's incredible. It sounds like Farmonaut is really revolutionizing the way that farmers manage their crops.
They really are. They're helping farmers to be more proactive and efficient, and that's good for the farmers, it's good for the environment, and it's good for all of us who rely on them to grow our food.
This is all so fascinating. I'm really excited to learn more about Farmonaut and the other ways that technology is being used to support organic agriculture.
Me too. There's so much exciting stuff happening in this field. It's a really great time to be involved in agriculture. It really is a game changer for agriculture. And as the technology continues to evolve, we can only imagine the even more innovative applications that will emerge. It's a very exciting time to be involved in this field.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But okay, you've got me hooked on this Farmonaut thing. So let's get down to brass tacks. How are organic alfalfa farmers actually using this technology out in the field? What are they seeing?
One of the most exciting things is that farmers are using Farmonaut to really fine-tune their irrigation. Water is such a precious resource.
Oh, absolutely, especially these days.
Right. And so by using Farmonaut's data, farmers can identify those areas of their fields that might be showing signs of stress.
Like those thirsty patches.
Exactly. And so they can target their irrigation efforts, making sure that the water is going exactly where it's needed.
That makes so much sense. It's all about being efficient,
Right.
not wasting water.
Exactly. And it's not just about water conservation. Farmonaut is also helping farmers to be more precise with their fertilizer applications.
Oh, interesting. So how does that work?
Well, the satellite imagery can actually reveal if there are any nutrient deficiencies in the soil. Like if the plants aren't getting enough nitrogen or phosphorus.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's like a soil test from space.
Kind of, yeah. And then armed with that information, farmers can apply fertilizer only where it's needed.
So they're not just spreading it everywhere.
Exactly. And that's really important for a couple of reasons. First of all, it saves farmers money. Fertilizer can be expensive.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And secondly, it's better for the environment. If you're applying fertilizer only where it's needed, you're reducing the risk of runoff.
Right, because that runoff can end up in our waterways and cause all sorts of problems.
Exactly. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Okay, so I'm hearing a lot of positives here. But are there any potential downsides to relying on this kind of technology? I mean, what about the farmer's intuition? That hands-on knowledge that they've built up over years of experience.
That's a really good point. And I think it's important to remember that technology should be a tool, not a replacement for human expertise.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance, right?
Exactly. And I think the best farmers will be those who can combine their own knowledge and experience with these new technological tools.
It's like a partnership, right, between the farmer and the technology.
Precisely. And I think that's where the real magic happens. When you can combine those two things, you can achieve some really incredible results.
I like that. The magic of partnership.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say a farmer is interested in using Farmonaut.
Hmm.
What does that look like in practice? Like, how do they actually get started?
Well, the first step is to contact Farmonaut and set up an account. And then they'll work with the farmer to create a customized plan.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
No, not at all. Every farm is different and every farmer has different needs.
That makes sense.
So Farmonaut will take into account things like the size of the farm, the type of crops being grown, and the farmer's goals.
So it's a really personalized approach.
Exactly. And then once the plan is in place, Farmonaut will start collecting data from the farmer's fields. They'll use their satellites to capture images, and then their AI system will analyze those images to identify any potential problems.
And then what? What happens next?
Well, Farmonaut will provide the farmer with regular reports that outline any issues they've detected. And they'll also provide recommendations on how to address those issues.
So it's not just about identifying the problems, it's about providing solutions.
Exactly. And that's what makes Farmonaut so valuable. They're not just giving farmers data, they're helping them to make sense of that data and to use it to improve their operations.
It's like having a team of experts on call, right?
That's a great way to put it. And the best part is that this technology is becoming more and more accessible all the time.
So it's not just for like the big industrial farms.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Even small-scale organic farmers can benefit from this technology.
That's really encouraging to hear. It sounds like Farmonaut is really leveling the playing field in a way.
I think so too. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about this technology. It has the potential to make sustainable agriculture more accessible to everyone.
Well, this has been a truly fascinating conversation about Farmonaut. I'm so impressed with what they're doing. But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to those aphids and the alfalfa mosaic virus and delve a little deeper into the specific challenges they pose. You know, we talked about it briefly at the beginning, but I think it would be helpful to really unpack the science behind these threats.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Let's dive in. All right, so let's zoom in on these tiny but mighty aphids. They're these little insects that feed on the sap of alfalfa plants.
Sapsuckers. Right, I remember you were talking about that earlier.
Exactly. They have these piercing mouth parts that they use to pierce the plant tissue and suck out the sugary sap. And that can weaken the plants, make them more susceptible to diseases, and reduce their overall yield.
And they can reproduce like crazy, right?
Oh, yeah, they're incredibly prolific. A single female aphid can produce dozens of offspring in just a few weeks, and then those offspring can start reproducing themselves. So you can imagine how quickly an aphid population can explode.
It's like an aphid army.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, they can also spread diseases like the alfalfa mosaic virus or AMV.
Right. We've been talking about AMV, but can you remind us what exactly it is and how it affects alfalfa plants?
Sure. So AMV is a plant virus, and it can cause a whole range of symptoms in alfalfa plants. Like you might see yellowing or mottling of the leaves, stunted growth, and even death of the plant in severe cases.
And the aphids are basically like little flying disease vectors.
Exactly. They pick up the virus when they feed on infected plants, and then they spread it to other plants as they move around.
So controlling those aphids is really key to preventing the spread of AMV.
Absolutely. And that's why integrated pest management, or IPM, is so important. It's all about using a combination of different strategies to keep those aphid populations in check.
Right. We talked about some of those strategies earlier, like neem oil, parasitic wasps, and attracting beneficial insects.
Exactly. All of those things can play a role in managing aphids and AMV.
So it's not just about one silver bullet. It's about a more holistic approach.
Precisely. And it's about being proactive, too. You know, not just waiting until there's a problem to take action.
Right. It's about staying ahead of the game.
Exactly. And that's where technology like Farmonaut can really come in handy. You know, by using satellite imagery and AI, they can help farmers to detect problems in their fields before they become visible to the naked eye.
So it's like having an extra set of eyes, or maybe even an extra brain, watching over your crops.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's what makes this technology so exciting. It has the potential to really transform the way we farm and to make organic agriculture even more sustainable and resilient.
That's awesome. I'm really inspired by everything we've talked about today. You know, we've covered a lot of ground from the microscopic world of aphids to the vastness of space. And it's clear to me that the future of organic agriculture is bright.
I agree, there are so many challenges, of course, but there are also so many opportunities. And I think that with the right combination of knowledge, innovation, and collaboration, we can create a food system that is healthy, sustainable, and just for everyone.
Well said. I think that's the perfect note to end on. So to all of our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of organic alfalfa farming. We hope you learned something new and that you're feeling as inspired as we are about the future of food.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep growing.